Hey guys, it's Jules. Today I wanted to talk about why sometimes things feel meaningless when you're burnt out. And I wanted to talk about this because I think I'm at the most burnt out I've ever been. And I think when people think of burnout, they think of just being tired and overworked, but I don't think it's just being sleepy or tired or even just exhausted. I think burnout is when your nervous system has been on for too long, when you've been performing and pushing, producing and surviving for too long, and you're in fight or flight mode from start to finish every single day. And I think the worst part about burnout, it's not even the fatigue, it's the numbness that comes with it, because when you're numb, it's like your brain can't access the things that normally give life that texture, like that joy, because joy requires energy too. And this curiosity about life, that requires energy too, but you don't have the energy because you're so burnt out. And when your system's drained, your mind kind of defaults to this survival mode. And this survival mode is kind of where burnout leads to, I think. When you're in survival mode, your body does not care about meaning. It just cares about getting through the day. It just cares about keeping yourself alive until the end of the day. And I think there's some sort of existential aspect to this as well, because when you're burnt out, your thoughts kind of start feeling a little bit philosophical, even when you don't have the energy to be philosophical. It's just this natural, like, what's the point of any of this? Why am I even trying? Is this just a cycle of working and dying? And those questions, they're not fake. They might be coming from depletion, but there's a difference between an existential reflection and an emotional exhaustion. This burnout and almost burnout nihilism in a way, it's so heavy. When you're burnt out, your brain is just trying to conserve as much energy as possible. Meaning making, making things mean things, creating this meaning, it's complex and it takes cognitive effort. So your mind just simplifies everything, and when that happens, it's just like nothing matters. Why try? And what's the point? It's not necessarily the truth at all. It's just kind of the efficient way that your brain is working in those moments of burnout. I think burnout does this strange thing where it kind of flattens your emotional range. I think this is like the color draining effect, if you will. And you don't really feel this intense sadness or excitement. It's just dull. And when the world feels dull, your brain interprets that as meaninglessness. But meaning is often felt through the contrast, which is contrast between struggle and reward, and like boredom and passion, and losing things and also loving things. If everything feels the same, that's when things feel empty. So that's where the contrast is important. But that emptiness, that's more like nervous system fatigue. It's not any sort of like cosmic truth. And there's something interesting about how burnout interacts with existential philosophy. And I feel like I say this in a lot of my videos, that existential isn't the meaning that's handed to us. We create it, we choose it, and we actively participate in it. But choosing it requires energy. And I also think that burnout creates this kind of paralysis of freedom. It's like you don't feel excited by the possibilities, you feel crushed by them in a way. And the very freedom that's supposed to empower you starts to feel like this weight on your shoulders. And then your brain just copes with it by shrinking the scope of everything. For example, if nothing matters, I don't have to choose, I don't have to care, and I don't have to carry this responsibility if nothing matters. And there's this tension between your desire for meaning and your lack of energy to pursue it. And that is debilitating and paralyzing. And I also feel like we live in this burnout society where we just live in this environment where constant productivity is rewarded. It just feels like you're rarely allowed to just exist. Like you always have to be doing something. And so of course people are burnt out. And when you're burnt out inside a system that keeps demanding more, your brain looks for a way to make sense of it. If I'm exhausted and nothing feels good, maybe nothing is good. And if I'm tired of striving, maybe striving is not good. And there's been times in my life where I genuinely thought I was having like this philosophical breakthrough, like I had cracked the code and realized, everything is empty. But when I look back, that was not enlightenment. I was so tired. I had been pushing myself and overthinking everything, or trying to control everything. plan for the future. And of course, everything felt meaningless. I didn't have any energy to feel the meaning. There's a difference. And when you're chronically stressed, your brain shifts resources. So you're not feeling as creative, and, long-term thinking into the future, that kind of decreases a little bit too. And you can't really emotionally regulate as much. And your survival systems become louder. And survival mode does not care about purpose, as I said before. It cares about reducing threat. So if your life feels like a constant performance or pressure, your brain starts detaching from it. And when you rest, when you step back and allow your nervous system to calm down, the meaning, it sneaks back in quietly. And not because your system's no longer in emergency mode. It just kind of, you're a little more recalibrated, like rest recalibrates you. But I think most people probably don't get enough rest because a lot of people have a hard time. Some people actually can't if they're working so much. And, if you're feeling burnt out, it's like you might not necessarily be having a crisis of existence, not an existential crisis per se, but you might be having a crisis of capacity. Your body and brain can only process so much. And when you exceed that capacity for too long, your system simplifies the world into something flat. And the world is not flat. It is so vibrant and beautiful, and there's so many things to experience, but we don't have the time or the energy. So you have to work all day for jobs that suck the life out of us. And it's like we're depleted. The depletion in you, it can be repleted, but you have to allow yourself to recover, which takes a lot. For me, I'm actually considering taking an L away from work just to be able to get the heck out of that place for a little bit. But instead of asking, what's the meaning of my life, I want to start asking, what is draining me right now? And instead of asking, why does nothing matter, I kind of want to start asking, what would feel slightly lighter this week? What can I do to even slightly lighten, this heavy energy in my life? And this meaning can return in fragments almost that way, because it'll start to, in return, bring back a little bit of, small curiosity, a little bit of relief, and just more regulated energy, more regulation. And if you are burnt out, when is the last time you truly felt rested? If you are burnt out, that is. When was the last time your nervous system was actually allowed to truly settle? And also, it's like all this time will pass by and you realize you're surviving instead of living. And that is the worst way to live. Life is not supposed to be lived in survival mode. You're supposed to be enjoying things. And I think the world feels so gray right now. The world feels so gray. But I think the gray, it's not necessarily the absence of color, it's the color waiting for light. And I don't think anybody's broken for feeling numb. I think a lot of people are just exhausted, and exhaustion's not a philosophy, it's a signal. And rest isn't laziness. A lot of people feel guilty for resting because they feel like they're being lazy, but rest isn't laziness, it's recalibration. You need to recalibrate. And sometimes the most existentially radical thing you can do is not search for meaning, but it is to lie down and let your nervous system remember what it feels like to be human again, and not that you're in survival mode. So that's what I wanted to rant about today. It gets to the point where it's like, I kind of want to take care of my health, but what do I do if I don't have any time to go to the doctor because every day is packed start to finish with a job that I hate, to make pennies that I have to spend on bills, just to do it again the next day, to be in an environment where people are rude and make me feel uncomfortable and talk about me behind my back. Work drama, that's a whole nother thing. Maybe we'll talk about it in another episode. But I hope this message resonated. I really wanted to rant about it because I'm just noticing it more and more. Everybody I see is kind of like a zombie. I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys had a good week, and I hope you have a good rest of the week. Let me know what you want to hear about next. Until then, good luck. Bye, guys.